And start broadcast. Good afternoon or good morning, everybody. My name is Tommy Norris. I'm the Executive Director of greenprisons.org, and we want to welcome you to our second in a series, second webinar in a series exploring sustainability in corrections. We've got 61 people registered this morning, which is more than 30% more than we had last time, and we were blown away with 40 participants last time. So we really appreciate you spending a few minutes with your morning. I realize for some of you out on the West Coast, it's really early. You folks in Hawaii, God love you. You must be doing this with lots of coffee in hand, so we really appreciate you being with us. Real quickly, for those of you that are not as familiar with Green Prisons as others may be, in this webinar and the flyer you got on it was your first contact, we're a nonprofit organization that exists exclusively to promote sustainability in corrections, both from a product point of view as well as from a practitioner point of view. So we do that through a website, we do it through webinars, we have an annual symposium, and we're beginning to provide other services, including an on-site assessment of what kinds of sustainable practices might work best in your facility. And if you want more information on that, you can give me a call either after the webinar or shoot me an email. Because of the large number of folks that we have on online with us this morning, we're going to go ahead and I'm going to turn this over to Ann, our marketing director, for a second, and she's going to talk about how you can ask questions and when we're going to do that. So, Ann, if you'll do that, we'll move to your slide. There we go.
Good morning. Thank you guys so much for joining us. So there are a few ways that you can interact by raising your hand. There should be a little hand icon that will let me know that you have a question or a comment that you would like to add. It might be easier while you're thinking the presentation, type your question into the questions area. I will see all of the collected questions here and we can go through them at the end. If it looks like there are a lot of folks asking the same question, we'll definitely address that. And we anticipate that this won't last longer than 45 or 50 minutes with the questions and the presentation. Everyone is on mute right now, but I can unmute you if, to allow you to comment or ask a question live. So we will do that at the end. Also, the webinar will be, in order to answer a question that always comes up, the webinar will be, we're recording this, and it will be posted to the greenprisons.org website in the coming week.
All righty. Thanks, Ann. We're going to go ahead and get started because I think we've got a great program this morning. As we were looking at topics for these webinars, the notion of reentry and job skill training and finding ways to link reentry and sustainable product and practice came up as one of the leading issues that we felt like we needed to address. So what we've done is got we've asked and two guys in the field who really are very well acquainted with this agreed to share their information with you today. The first one is the role that correctional industries can play in helping prepare inmates for green-collar jobs. And then we're going to look at a specific example out of the Virginia Department of Corrections and how they use the performance contracting process not only to make some significant renovations in their facilities, but also to build into that the opportunity for inmate training space and programs. One of the things that I've learned in doing this is that when you talk about green collar jobs and reentry and this, that, and the other thing, different things mean uh, different different things mean different things to different people. And so this isn't by any stretch of the imagination meant to be the definitive answer on reentry and sustainability. Basically, in this very brief presentation that we've got this morning from both these gentlemen, all we want to do is get the discussion started, to get you thinking. If you have a reentry program or are preparing to develop one, to think about a sustainable practice that you could incorporate and potentially train inmates to assume or learn a skill that they could potentially carry to the street. On the flip side of that, if you're doing something that is sustainable now, whether it's recycling, composting, whatever it is, to look for ways that you can link that back to reentry. And again, ideally, the goal here, either way you come at this, is to help prepare inmates for the street and to do it in a way that will prepare them to take over 21st century jobs. We're really very fortunate today to have two folks that are really expert in this field, and I'm going to turn the microphone over now to Will Heslop from the National Correctional Industry Association, and Will's going to sort of give you a snapshot of how industries can interface with reentry. So, Will, the floor is yours.
Thanks very much, Tommy. As Tommy mentioned, my name is Will Heslop with the National Correctional Industries Association. I'm the Director of Operations for that association. For more information about us, you can always look at our URL. It's on the slide, nationalcia.org. Just in general on reentry and correctional industries, well, let me back up a second. Talk a little bit about our membership. NCIA's members are the 50 state agencies of correctional industries that may be part of the DOC or a nonprofit, a private nonprofit associated with the DOC, as well as the federal level, which is FBI Unicorn in the U.S., membership, Canada, which is CORCAN, Australia Correctional Industries, and we just added the Bahamas Correctional Industries this year as an international member. We also have jail industry and jail work program members, and one of the things later on when I go into the different, feature the different green programs, I wanted to show green programs on the national, state, and also the local level. In general, NCIA is involved, and correctional industries is involved in reentry, not only on the green, but we feel it's a very important reentry tool, correctional industries, when partnered with other reentry organizations and programs. A couple of examples of how we're involved in. Just last week, NCIA was involved with the National Institute of Corrections satellite broadcast, and the title of that was the role that correctional industry plays in reentry. We've also hosted 3 regional offender workforce development conferences over the past year in partnership with NIC, and many of our members have earned the OWDS certification, which is the Offender Workforce Development Specialist certification, which is awarded by the National Institute of Corrections. So in general, correctional industries is heavily involved in reentry, and it's a big part of our reason for being. Now to get on to our green programs, one of the things is that our quarterly magazine, we have 4 issues a year, and our summer issue is basically the green edition. So we spend about 25% of our print publication on green programs. And the programs I'm going to talk about later on, or feature in the slides later on, are going to be from articles that we published in our green edition. To give an overall snapshot of the green program picture for CI, we do for correctional industries, and I may say CI, we use that acronym for correctional industries. I may use that, that's what that means. We have a national directory, NCI directory, that we publish every year, and we asked the correctional industries what products that they're involved with. And to give you kind of an overall picture of the green programs, I'm going to discuss a few of those. And one is printer cartridge recycling. And 5 states in 2011 have reported they're involved in some kind of ink or toner cartridge remanufacturing or recycling. That may not sound like a lot, but in 2009, there was only one state was involved in that, so there is a huge increase in that. And the 2012 data is showing more state agencies that are getting involved with ink or toner cartridge recycling, either as a new program or they're looking at the viability of that. We also asked about recycled products, and that's a generic category in that it could be mattresses, cardboard paper, a lot of times it could be clothing or fabric, and for agencies that are involved in agriculture, food processing, they may have composting as well. And about 19 to 20 states are involved. A larger number of states, about 30, almost 37, are involved in what's called refurbished products, and that could be things like vehicle repair or service, furniture reupholstery, and things like that. As you know, anytime that you can increase the effective service life of an asset, you're going to lead to a more sustainable culture within the organization. Why buy new if you can get another 2, 3, 4, 5 years out of an asset? The other thing I wanted to point out was that every year we have what's called the Enterprise National Training Conference. And just to do a quick plug, this year, 2012, or next year in 2012, we're in Sacramento, California, April 1st to 4th. And at the Enterprise National Training Conference in the past, we've had programming on green products. For example, last year we had one on green laundry, a workshop on green laundry that was put on by Pennsylvania Correctional Industries in partnership with their laundry equipment manufacturer or vendor. And in 2010, we had a focus group at our national training conference. 14 correctional industry directors were involved in a focus group, and the end result of that focus group was the correctional industries part of a white paper put out by the National Institute of Corrections on the greening of corrections, and I believe that was highlighted at the last Green Prisons conference. So Tommy, next slide. Now, as I had mentioned before, several of the programs that I'm going to be featuring here, and there's 4 of them, are going to be on the federal, state, and also local level. The first one was in our summer 2010 Green Edition, and that was on FPI and Unicor manufacturing solar panels. And the picture on the left, that's an inmate worker producing solar panels at the FCI Otisville, New York facility. And at the time, that facility was employing approximately, or there's 150 inmate workers at that facility, and it was producing 150 solar panels per day. The other thing about that manufacturing process was it was utilizing ISO 9001-2000 and also Lean Six Sigma manufacturing processes. The panels are UL certified and guaranteed for 25 years, and at the time, the plant was producing 24 megawatts of power per year, and I think the example that was given in the article is that was enough to power 4,600 homes annually. The picture on the right is the headquarters is a picture of the roof of the Unicor headquarters in Washington D.C. and the same panels that were produced by Unicor were installed on the rooftop of their headquarters building in D.C. So not only they're producing, but they're also installing them on their own headquarters building, as well as, I believe, other federal government buildings as well. Next slide. In this year's Green Edition, we featured Colorado Correctional Industries. And the first part I want to talk about is their inmates were involved with helping to install photovoltaic arrays at 9 state prison ministries located throughout Colorado. And these arrays went operational on April 22nd, 2011. And it's estimated that they'll save the state taxpayers about $475,000 in electricity costs over the next 20 years. So not only is in the previous example showing the example of inmates learning how to produce solar panels, but in Colorado and some other states as well, the installation of solar arrays or photovoltaic arrays, that that skill is being learned by inmate workers. And then on the picture side, the one on the left is showing from the 2009 Green Edition. Colorado Correctional Industries had wrote an article on the remanufactured toner and ink cartridge and their program, and that's a picture of inmate workers, remanufacturing cartridges. And the CCI, or Colorado Correctional Industries, partnered with a company that specializes in remanufactured cartridges. So the technology and the equipment was provided by their partner. And if you look at the graph on the right, they were actually able to show the red column there, the cost savings of those remanufactured cartridges, printer cartridges, over the buying new. The other thing that they explained in the article was, as you probably know, there's horror stories about ink or toner remanufactured cartridges that they may leak ink or all over your printer or your copier machine. By partnering with the private company, they learn techniques in what they can, instead of just drilling the hole and filling it with ink, they can actually remanufacture the entire cartridge. They're 100% tested, they're certified, and they actually come with a warranty, not only on the cost of the cartridge, but if there's any damage to the printer. And any state agency can order those online on Correctional Industries, Colorado Correctional Industries website. So it's not just the DOC that is purchasing those, but other state agencies can do that as well. And next slide. And in this year's Green Edition, we highlighted Washington State Correctional Industries, and then the picture on the left is one of their recycling programs. Interesting, they have a mattress recycling program, and there are other correctional industries that do mattress recycling, but one of the things I thought that was key here was they actually, their stats show that they process about 52,000 mattresses a year. Basically, that keeps those mattresses out of the landfills, and that's something that takes up a lot of space in landfills, and they're able to recycle them. They also do cardboard and plastic recycling operation as well. One of the key things that Washington State Correctional Industries mentions is not just teaching the skill, recycling skills and things like that to the inmate workers, but they're also instilling sustainable practices to the inmate workers. So upon reentry, they're able to take that, those sustainable practices into the community as well as into any future job the inmate worker may have. On the right, and this was featured in our summer 2010 Green Edition, is a picture of the Coyote Ridge Correction Center. And this correctional facility earned the U.S. Building Council's LEED Gold certification. And I believe it may be the only campus, entire correctional campus, that has this gold certification. Not sure, but that may have been reported when they published that. Washington State Correctional Industries operates a sewing line, food factory, and laundry operation at this LEED Gold certified facility. And next slide. And then the last featured program, green program, that I want to show, this is on a local level, and again, to go numbers below the state level, but as well as we're seeing a lot of municipal and county jails joining with correctional industries, and not just the work programs that you may be familiar with, but actual manufacturing and production type projects. And two that I'm going to show here are at the Lafayette Parish Correctional Center, and this is from last year's Green Edition in 2010. And on the picture on the left, what the inmate workers are producing there are biodegradable garbage bags, and they sell over 1,000 cases of these bio bags per year, and they come in 10 to 60 gallon capacities. And they partnered with a plastics company for the technology and the manufacturing process to create those biodegradable bags. The second thing that Lafayette Parish does, and that's the picture on the right, is they recycle old prison uniforms and other type of fiber materials, and they produce animal and pet beds, and that's what that inmate worker is sewing there for use at their local animal control shelters. Fabric scraps that aren't large enough to be sewn together as part of the exterior of that pet bed are shredded and used for interior fiber filling. So I believe 100% of that pet bed is recycled materials. And to date, or at the time of the article being published, they had produced 1,000 pet beds have been produced and donated to local animal control shelters. So this is a great example of not only a recycled product, but also giving back to the community. And again, instilling into the inmate workers not only the skills that they can use, are green collar type skills, but also giving back to the community. Next slide. And just some contact information. There's again our website for the National Correctional Industries Association. Our phone number's there too as well, and quickly went through the different a couple of the examples. There are many examples. Each time we do our green edition, there are probably 5 or 6 feature articles and 5 or 6 additional news articles in our green edition. So, and that's really just the tip of the iceberg. There are many correctional industries, as I showed you when I gave the snapshot, of green programs within correctional industries that are involved in green type programs, and be happy to talk to you. You give us a call here at the 2 phone numbers and ask for me, and if there's some more information you'd like or would like to get in touch with one of the correctional industries. Thank you very much, Johnny. Oh, sorry, one more thing too, just a quick plug. Again, our Enterprise National Training Conference this year in Sacramento, California. All
righty. Thanks, Will. We appreciate it. And information about your conference and your regional programs that you do in concert with NIC, I assume, are available from your website. We're gonna move along. I know there are probably some questions that you'd like to have Will answer, but before we do that, I want to go ahead and move on to Tom Young, because I think the folks in Virginia have been very creative and have done some other kinds of things that with not only with performance contracting, but also with putting inmates to work and getting them trained. So with that, I'll turn it over to Tom Young at the Virginia Department of Corrections. Tom?
Good morning. My name is Tom Young. I work for the Virginia Department of Corrections, and I am a facilities person, not a prison person per se. My unit provides support to prison operations and prison industries. If you could, Tommy, advance the slide. The Virginia government has been fairly active in promoting energy conservation since 2001. This is a list of executive orders and legislation. We were authorized to do energy performance contracting in 2001, and master leases were approved in 2004. Various governors over the years have issued executive orders promoting conservation and recycling and such. About $150 million worth of energy performance work has been conducted since it was authorized. Of course, a lot of private sector folks were doing this way before 2001, but Virginia government is really conservative. So we got started here at the DOC about 2005, and since then we spent $45 million total on projects to improve energy. The features of an energy performance contract would include capital improvements without a capital budget. That's unfortunately what we're all dealing with. You identify and stabilize your utility costs. A lot of us don't know what the costs are, so we do that audit up front, and then we track the energy usage over time to see if we've done any good by our project. Low interest fund source is something that will help, but there is interest associated, so even though you're amortizing the cost over a long period of time, you might be better off if you had the money. The problem is we don't have the money. Contributes toward conservation goals, and then there's a guarantee associated. I'll explain that in a minute. Next slide. This is the real meat of the thing. How do you get money? These are the options that I know of. There may be many others. Contractor financing was something performance contracts groups like Train, the big guys, did many years ago. I don't think that we can find it anymore. There might be somebody that would enter into a contract and finance it for you, but I just don't know of that being available. Our first performance contract was funded by a bank, Bank of America. We got a loan, and we're paying it back. Master lease is something the accountants understand. It's a kind of a loan. And then in Virginia, and this may be something that other states are doing as well, I don't have any experience outside of Virginia, our Treasury Department will issue a block of bonds every 2 years as they can, and then that's available to state agencies like DOC to do energy performance work. And we use that money until it runs out. It's a competitive process. So you go to Treasury and explain your plan, and if you're deemed better than the next guy, you get to do it. All right, next slide. Some of the things that we've done with success, lighting upgrades. Many prisons still have the older lights. We changed to fluorescence and electronic ballast. Right now, T8 is the standard for tube fluorescence. Lighting is pretty fast payback, 5 years or less. Water system improvements we've done with some success. I'll show you results of that in a minute. Building automation, steam, of course, if you've got steam leaks, got to fix that right away. And hot water improvements. Initially, our idea was to apply the fast savings that we got out of these energy performance measures against some infrastructure repairs, which is kind of the standard approach with the performance contracting. And we did some caulking, some window replacements, and some mechanical system repairs, which we all needed, but we didn't have the capital budget to accomplish. Next slide. There is this thing that Tommy mentioned that is probably the reason I'm here. The Virginia Department of Corrections, in the last iteration of our ESCO, we signed up Johnson Controls to do energy conservation at 7 different prisons, and basically it was what I just explained before: water, lighting, mechanical. And we had one project that we wanted to do. We didn't have any money. It was for classroom, for inmates to learn green skills. And the project didn't have positive cash flow, so we went out and we contracted Johnson as part of the overall to construct a class in the existing industry space. We had a shell, provide equipment mock-ups, develop a course for us. They have folks that will develop your training program and come on site and train our existing instructors and provide course materials. Something that's very important for the offender leaving the system is to have some kind of certification, and we are able to provide that as part of our program. So we added up. Virginia allowed a 15-year total program for spreading the cost out. So we have a 15-year loan. We've got the short payback, long payback, and our classroom all mixed together to give us a 15-year total. Next slide. So here's some of the energy conservations. I got to do this because I'm an engineer, and a lot of folks won't care, but this is just a graph showing the tremendous savings. If you've got a very tiny leak in your steam line, how and the cost on the left is BTU per year. If you've got somebody around that will figure out how much you pay per BTU for your steam, you can get immediate payback on a steam leak. Next slide. We had a lot of very large 5,000-gallon, even larger hot water tanks that were providing hot water to our dormitories, and we switched those out to plate and frame heat exchangers. That provided a very good payback, about 4 years as a low cost. This shows some of the results. One prison, Greensville Correctional Center, it's the largest, and you see how much water we were using before the water conservation measures were installed, and it dropped off to something that about half of what we used before, and it stayed steady at that lower level. We watch it every 3 months. We do another check to make sure we're still down there. Next slide. This is financials from one of our projects. You see the green bar is good. It's dropped down a couple of $1 million, and this is by the International Protocol for Verification. If you don't know what that means, it's a big book. It's about 2 inches thick. Many people don't have the patience to read it, including me. But it doesn't mean that the contractor, Johnson Controls, has just arbitrarily indicated that you're saving the money. There's a prescribed way about going about calculating that savings, and everybody uses that method. Next slide. All right, so here's a classroom. This is an air handler. It's a mock-up air handler. It's just like every other air handler, commercial air handler rooftop unit that you'll see today, only it's smaller. The piping systems that you see to your left are the hot water and the cold water. And next slide. Here's some hot water and cold water tanks. You see that little black box on the left is a boiler. It substitutes for any size boiler that you can imagine. It's just very small. Next slide. Here's a chiller. Again, teeny tiny little thing, but it provides chilled water to the coils. Next slide. Fan coil unit. Next slide. And then some variable air volume boxes. So I'm an engineer. I graduated from a top 10 engineering school, and I learned about all these systems both on the blackboard at school and then after graduation on the job. It would have been terrific to have had both of those components available to me in a classroom setting before graduation, and pleased to be able to provide that for these guys coming out of this program. This is controls. Johnson Controls has provided their Metasys system. It's not the only system, but it's very common. Offenders will learn how to program the system, and that also is a very valuable skill. Next slide. All right. Associated with the energy performance contract, which generated a positive cash flow and allowed us to construct the training center, at the same prison, we received a grant to install a solar system, which we hope will be available to the offenders also. And as part of this training program, they'll learn how to service this equipment. This is actually not ours. Ours is under construction. It will, when we're done, include 300 of these panels, which you see, and so it'll provide a very nice laboratory for the offenders to learn. Next slide. This is just another component of that system. It's the pump skid. This is pretty much industry standard at the moment. Next slide. And here's where the hot water is maintained before it goes into the shower units. And I believe this is my last slide. This is a photovoltaic system. It's a PV tree, basically. It was installed on the top of a parking deck. And we keep looking at these things. Eventually, we'll probably have some of these to charge roving patrol vehicles. It's difficult right now to find a vehicle that you want to use as roving patrol that's a battery-operated vehicle, but this surely will be an option in the future. And that's it.
Okay, and Tom, that's your contact information. Folks can shoot you an email if they've got a specific question that they want to ask off air.
Absolutely.
Okay. Let's go to you all now. We've got about 15 minutes, 10 or 15 minutes for anybody who's got any questions or want to react or respond to anything that either one of our guests had to say. If you would just either raise your hand or type in a question. Do we have anything out there?
We do. There are a couple of questions. Dean Mason asked, how long is the HVAC training program? What was the cost of the mock-up lab, and where do the instructors come from? Lots of questions there.
All right. The instructors come from the existing training program at the prison. So our Department of Correctional Education has instructors, and some of these are HVAC instructors. The difference is that they'll be training the inmates according to green collar principles, and that's the component that we're bringing So train the trainer is going to happen here shortly. It cost us $325,000 to build out this space. It was a shell space. So we had to move some things out of the way. We constructed a demising wall. We provided HVAC and lighting for the space, as well as the mock-up equipment. We were providing all the training materials, and about 6 months contact between the people establishing the program and the people at the prison who will be delivering it directly to the offenders. Then, what was the first question?
How long is the HVAC training program?
Oh yeah, I conveniently forgot that. I have no idea. I suppose it could be 6 months to a year, but like I said, I'm not a programs person. I'm really interested in building the space out, the people that will take it over and deliver the training and provide the certification would be able to answer that. And whoever's interested, if you get in contact with me, I'll link you up with the right people.
I've got a feeling, Tom, that there'll be a number of folks that will be interested in that answer. So if you could include us on your response to Paul, then ideally we'll post that up on our website as well.
Sure, I'll be glad to.
Thanks. Another question, Ann?
Yeah, from Paul Sheldon regarding the CIA, how do you distinguish green industries from other projects, and have you found any advantages in funding quote-unquote green industries?
Well,
That one's
on the
for
first question, yeah, on the first question, how do we differentiate, I guess, green industries versus non-green industries? When we do our directory, this is where most of the data that I presented was from our. We ask the state agencies as well as FBI and UCOR, and then also we've included in our directory in the last 2 years entries from jail or municipal or county jails as well. Ask them to provide the types of products that they're working on. So if someone, if an agency or correctional industry reports that they're working on a recycled product, we consider that to be a green type program. But again, it's self-reported. We don't have because we have a certification versus non-green. We do not. And what was the second question? Not sure if I conveniently forgot that as well. What was the second part of that?
Have you found any advantages in funding green industries?
I don't know. And I think one of the, as far as the net, we don't actually ask that question. But one thing I could probably do is ask, some correctional industries specifically that question as far as, the fund. If was it easier to get the funding? And one thing that you have to remember about correctional industries, most state agencies are self-supporting, so they fund their operations through the sales of their product. So the decision to do a green program versus a non-green program or whatever is a business decision, not necessarily they have to go and get the funding for that.
Okay. I think this is a question that can be answered by either or both of our presenters. From Doug Sharkey, he's wondering if the prisoners are compensated for their work.
I can. This is Will. I can go ahead and talk about that on a general level. Most correctional industries do compensate inmate work. Most do, and the amounts are various, so I won't get into that. But in general, the answer is yes.
In Virginia, also the answer is yes. Aside from the industries that do all the things that Will was describing, we also self-perform a fair amount of construction, and those trades are compensated in the 45-cent to 95-cent per hour range.
Okay. Other questions, Ann?
Yeah, there are a lot of questions specifically regarding the performance contracting that aren't necessarily specific to the training portion or green portion, green jobs portion of it. I'm going to run through those really quickly just so they're out there, and then I don't want to spend too much time on them because they're not the focus of this, but they're interesting questions, so I'll just put it out there. This is from Paul Sheldon. Regarding performance contracting, how do you deal with state requirements that prohibit contracting for more than 1 year? Let's see. Was the payback, also from Paul, was the payback for the solar tree on the parking structure reasonable? Usually seems to be 13 plus years to positive return on investment. Let's see. What was the cost? Sorry?
I was just going to say, as you look at some of these questions, one that as we get close to time, one of the ones that folks might be interested in, and I think it's a question for Will, although I don't know if Virginia has a PI program, but this one comes from Jack Hanley. How does the PI program fit into the greening of correctional industries?
Well, let me describe the PI program. The actual acronym is PIECP, and that's Prison Industry Enhancement Certification Program. It's a U.S. Department of Justice program that several correctional industries are involved in, and basically it's an exemption to federal statute that prohibits the production of prison-made goods into interstate commerce, and there are 37 states and 7 counties or municipalities that have certificates, PI certificates. Basically, they're certified in that. Basically, a lot of, I think where it could fit in with green, and I don't know if there are any specific green programs within PI right now. I could certainly look that up and report back. But many of the PI programs, it's a correctional industry partnering with a private partner, either on the final sale of the product, or the inmates are actually working for the private partner and being paid and directing the private partner. So, an example could be in a recycling facility like that. The could be working for the private partner in their recycling facility and being directed and paid by the private partner. Another example could be any kind of like solar panel manufacturing or something like that. So any of the examples that were shown during my part of the presentation could be potentially a PI program.
All righty. And we probably got time for 1 or 2 more.
Torin Kexel is asking a couple of great questions. One is what organization trains the DOC trainers, which we addressed briefly, but I think there could be some additional conversation about that. But also, have any of the training efforts produced verified jobs for the inmates once they re-enter? Can either of you speak to how that's measured and what the result is?
Surprisingly, Johnson Controls, based in Milwaukee, has a couple of folks that do this. So, Virginia is being put out as being innovative in doing this, but apparently it's not unheard of. So there's an individual that is explaining to us not only how to train the inmates for the green jobs, but to target the skills for our program to the needs of our local setup here. And in this case, it's Virginia Beach, so the market there's a little bit different from where I am, just 100 miles away in Richmond. So they have that expertise in-house. The program, the room that you saw on the slides is finished, but they haven't started the program yet. We just finished last week, so I don't have any metrics yet to show that the program is effective. Also, anybody interested in performance contracting, love to talk to you about it. Those short. So if anybody wants to call me or email me after, I'd be happy to talk about that.
Can you address
That's Tom, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Can you address the cost for creating the solar panel manufacturing facility? Are there specifics, or is that something that is too tedious?
That'd be Will, right?
Oh, I would probably have to direct that to there. We didn't have the cost published in that article, so someone could give me a call or go to our website and shoot me an email.
Great.
I'm trying to run through this. We'll take one more question, and then I think we're going to have to wind it up to stay reasonably close to on time.
I think that addresses most of the questions. Yeah.
Okay.
Again, there's a lot of interest in the performance contracting
Approach to this.
with.
Okay. Well, I want to wind this up by thanking both of our panelists, both Will Heslop and Tom Young. We could not have done this without you.
Can you flip to the next slide? Sorry, just because I
sure.
think it's got there.
Much of the information that they put out here today, at least some of it was news to me. So I really appreciate them taking the time and sharing what they have. I think what this demonstrates is that sustainability can be an integral part of the reentry process. And when you go looking for ways to do that, sometimes there's an aha moment. So I encourage you to do that. One of the mantras that I've heard from a lot of the companies that have made significant infrastructure, that the best way to maximize the efficiency of new equipment is to make sure that all the PMI and all the maintenance is done on them in a timely fashion. And sometimes I know from my facility friends that's the thing that sometimes gets short-circuited when money gets tight, and you stretch that 30-day check to 45 or 60, and part of that gets financially driven. So if you had a trained inmate crew that could do most or all of that, not only would you be providing them with a skill, but you'd be saving money in-house as well. We talked to some folks a couple of weeks ago that use a water-based hydroponic composting system, and they're willing to train inmates to maintain those units because they got jobs for them out in the community. So consider using that and looking at that approach. Finally, we have our next and final webinar for this year will be November the 9th. We're going to look at some specific instances of green and sustainable programs around the country. I get a little nervous using the term best practices because I think that anything you're doing that helps reduce your operating costs and ideally has a positive impact on the environment. And I kind of liked one of the things Will said particularly, that, you know, one of the impacts and one of the positive things you can get out of this is your relationship with the community and building good relationships with them by either reducing what's in the landfill or providing a product that goes back to a nonprofit, etc. So take a look at that, and that'll be the focus of our webinar in November. We're going to take December off just because, given everything else that goes on in December, we figured we'd be hurting for folks. But we will start back again in January with a full schedule of webinars leading up to our symposium in the summer. In the meantime, I'll be out at the CMI conference in Colorado Springs next week. If you get a chance, come by, and if you're going to be out there, come by and say hello. And finally, we'll also be at ACA in January in Phoenix, and this is an open invitation to any of you all who are going to be there to come by our Clean and Green Committee meeting, which is the ACA subcommittee that I had on these issues. You're welcome and encouraged. It will be at 1:30 on Saturday, and check the program for your for exactly the location. Finally, if you're not on our mailing list, I encourage you to go to the website at greenprisons.org and sign up, and we look forward to talking to you in November. Thanks so much for joining us.
Click one more slide because it has everyone's contact information, I believe.
Okay. One last time around with Will's contact information and also Tom's. We thank you all very much for joining us, and we'll hope you come back again in November.